Netflix did not just end a business partnership last week. They issued a verdict that Hollywood insiders have been whispering about for years: music, and this time they said it out loud. When a streaming giant with over 230 million subscribers decides to walk away from Meghan Markle's lifestyle brand after barely 12 months, that is not a strategic pivot. That is a rejection letter written in corporate language. And the fallout has been swift, brutal, and honestly pretty revealing about where the Duchess of Sussex actually stands in the entertainment industry. Eric Schiffer, the chairman of Reputation Management Consultants, gave an interview to Page Six that should have Mark's team in crisis mode. He did not mince words. He called her situation, quote, rat poison for executives who are already gun-shy. Let me just sit with that for a moment. This is not some anonymous internet troll lobbing insults from a basement. This is a professional whose entire career revolves around understanding how brands are perceived. In Hollywood, speaking on the record to a major publication, when the people who get paid to fix reputations start publicly declaring yours toxic, the damage runs so much deeper than one failed jam company. Schiffer described the whole with Love Meghan endeavor as, quote, celebrity brand suicide in a cashmere apron. He called it a Martha Stewart ripoff. And before anyone dismisses this as jealousy or tabloid fodder, consider the source. Eric Schiffer, who's the chairman of Reputational Management Consultants, Music, told them that Netflix cutting ties with Meghan's lifestyle brand sends a pretty brutal music signal to the marketplace. PR professionals do not typically torch potential clients in the press unless they have already written them off entirely. The pattern he identified is not speculation. It is documented history. Spotify Lemonade. Netflix each exit louder and messier than the last. Each departure accompanied by the same narrative from Marle's camp that somehow her partners just could not keep up with her vision. At what point do we stop blaming every single collaborator and start looking at the common denominator? I am just going to say it. When 3 major media companies in a row decide working with you is not worth the headache. The problem is not their lack of imagination. The statement Netflix released was carefully crafted to say absolutely nothing while communicating everything. Quote, the show did not go on, so it did not make sense to continue the partnership. Read that again. The show did not go on. They are referring to With Love Meghan, the cooking and lifestyle series that was supposed to launch a merchandising empire. Netflix invested in brick-and-mortar retail opportunities. They plan to create dedicated as-ever sections in their Netflix house locations in Philadelphia and Dallas. They were building infrastructure around this woman's brand, and then they watched the viewership numbers come in, watched the public response, and quietly dismantled every single one of those plans. The show did not go on. That is Netflix speak for this. Flopped, and we are cutting our losses. What makes this particularly interesting is Marle's counter-narrative. According to sources close to the Duchess, she cut ties with Netflix because they were holding her back. She felt they were too cautious with her as ever brand. She wanted to go global. And, apparently Netflix, the company that operates in over 190 countries worldwide, just was not set up to help her achieve international reach. Come on, we are all thinking it. You can't call Netflix out as the problem. They didn't know what they were doing. They're the biggest brand in the world right now. For them to not want to have anything to do with you is a problem. Netflix is literally one of the most globally recognized brands on the planet. They stream content to nearly every corner of the world. If your argument for leaving is that you need a partner with better international infrastructure, you have just told on yourself. The insider response from Netflix headquarters was reportedly one of, quote, consternation. They were not happy with the suggestion that they had somehow limited her potential when the reality was far simpler. Nobody was buying what she was selling. A source speaking to the Daily Mail laid it out plainly. Quote, they were not happy with the fact that no one really cared about the brand. When they were looking to create as-ever areas in Netflix house, there was no appetite for it. It just did not fit with Squid Game or Stranger Things or Bridgerton like they had hoped. That comparison alone should tell you everything about the gap between expectation and reality. Netflix builds retail experiences around properties that generate genuine cultural enthusiasm. Squid Game. Merchandise flies off shelves because millions of people became obsessed with that show. Stranger Things launched a nostalgic merchandising phenomenon. Bridgerton created an entire aesthetic that fans wanted to inhabit. And then there was As Ever, a lifestyle brand fronted by a woman whose cooking show taught viewers how to repackage pretzels from Walmart into smaller bags with ribbon on them. The disconnect was not subtle. The numbers behind this split revealed just how much Netflix had invested in making this work. They did not simply stream her content and hope for the best. They became equity, partners in her lifestyle brand. They committed resources to physical retail spaces designed specifically to sell her products. They planned to integrate her merchandise into their experiential venues, positioning as ever alongside their most successful franchises. This was not a casual collaboration. This was Netflix betting real money on Meghan Markle's commercial viability. And that bet did not pay off. An industry insider told Page Six that, quote, "Losing Netflix on a sut backlash because the halo just got ripped off and what is left looks like another failed Montecito money grab." The halo, that is the word that matters here. Netflix provided legitimacy. Their involvement signaled to other investors that Marley was a worthwhile bet. Now that signal has been reversed entirely. The trail of destruction Schiffer referenced is not ancient history. Spotify famously ended their relationship with the Sussexes after executives privately called them grifters. The podcast deal that was supposed to yield multiple seasons of content produced exactly one season of Archetypes before imploding. Markle then moved to Lemonatata, a smaller podcast network where her series quietly died without fanfare. And now Netflix, the biggest streaming platform in the world, has walked away from her brand after investing millions. Each of these exits shares a common feature. Each came with public finger-pointing at her partners. Spotify did not understand her vision. Lemonada could not provide the platform she deserved. Netflix was too cautious, too slow, too unwilling to let her shine. The pattern Schiffer identified is devastating. Quote, "Repeated breakups leave a repulsive scent." She now carries the scent of high-maintenance disappointment. That phrase, high-maintenance disappointment, will follow Markle into every pitch meeting for the foreseeable future. Executives talk. Hollywood is a remarkably small town despite its global reach. And reputation travels faster than any press release. When you burn through Spotify, then a smaller podcast network, then Netflix in rapid succession, people notice. They compare notes. They ask each other what went wrong. And the answers they exchange are not flattering. The pattern is not bad luck. It is not a series of unfortunate misunderstandings with partners who simply could not match her energy. It is documented behavior. Blame the collaborators, claim victim status, move on to the next opportunity while insisting the previous failure was everyone else's fault. How many times can you run that playbook before people stop taking your calls? Netflix has officially pulled the plug on its partnership with Meghan Markle's polarizing lifestyle brand, as ever dealing another blow to brand Sussex. For Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, the Netflix era has been a pretty major disappointment for music, the platform. This particular failure cuts deeper than the others for a specific reason. Netflix represented the ultimate validation for Markle's post-royal ambitions. This was not a podcast deal or a book contract. This was the biggest streaming platform in the world, saying, "Yes, we believe in you, and here is major capital to prove it." They did not just stream her show. They became business partners in her lifestyle empire. They provided the credibility that smaller investors would have needed to see before committing their own resources. Schiffer put it bluntly, quote, "For Meghan, losing Netflix is the kiss of death to the pitch that prestige partners will see unlimited upside." Spoiler alert, he added. They do not. If Netflix, with all their resources and global distribution capabilities, could not make as ever successful, what investor in their right mind would take that bet? Now, the question nobody in Markle's camp seems willing to address is the one about audience. Schiffer suggested that Hollywood buyers should actually question whether she has a, quote, real audience. This touches on something commentators have speculated about for years. The gap between her apparent social media following and her actual commercial pull. Millions of Instagram followers should theoretically translate into millions of potential customers. Yet the products sit unsold. The viewership numbers disappoint. The merchandise planned for Netflix house retail locations never materialized because there was simply no demand. With love, Meghan generated chatter. Certainly, people talked about it. Critics wrote about it. But talking about something and actually wanting to purchase products associated with it are very different behaviors. The show attracted attention partly because Viewers were curious about this former actress turned royal turned lifestyle entrepreneur. Curiosity is not loyalty, though, and loyalty is what moves. Merchandise. The gap between Markle's social media presence and her actual purchasing customers has become impossible to ignore. You can have millions of followers while simultaneously having a product that nobody buys. The follower count looks impressive until you examine engagement rates, until you track how many of those followers actually interact with content, actually click through to purchase pages, actually complete transactions. There has been persistent speculation about the authenticity of her follower base, with some suggesting inflated numbers that do not represent genuine consumer interest. Whether or not those specific claims hold water, the evidence from her commercial venture speaks loudly. If she commanded the devoted audience her team suggests, Netflix House would have built those as ever sections. Retailers would be clamoring for her products. The show would have generated the viewership necessary to justify continued investment. None of that happened. Markle's camp has framed her departure from Netflix as a strategic decision to pursue global expansion. She wanted to take as ever international, they claim, and Netflix was not the right partner for that ambition. Let me be very clear about why this explanation does not hold up to even basic scrutiny. Netflix operates in over 190 countries. They have infrastructure in nearly every market on Earth. If global reach were genuinely your priority, Netflix is quite literally the most globally connected entertainment company you could possibly partner with. The suggestion that she needed to leave Netflix to go global is like suggesting you need to leave the ocean to find more water. It reveals either a fundamental misunderstanding of her former partner's capabilities or more likely a desperate attempt to reframe a humiliating exit as a calculated business move. Food products face enormous regulatory hurdles for international distribution. Each country has different requirements for ingredients, labeling, health certifications, and import restrictions. Building a global food brand requires navigating bureaucratic complexity that most established companies struggle with for years. If Markle could not achieve domestic success with Netflix backing her with their resources and expertise and audience reach, the notion that she will somehow conquer international markets independently is fantasy. One commentator noted that you have to succeed domestically before you can attempt to go global. That is just obvious. She has not demonstrated that domestic success. The products are not flying off shelves in California, let alone positioning for expansion into European or Asian markets with their entirely different consumer preferences and regulatory frameworks. Eric Schiffer offered something rare in his Page 6 interview. He provided honest PR advice. The kind of guidance Markle would be wise to actually consider rather than dismiss. Quote, "If I were advising them, I would amputate the empire fantasy and build one excellent repeat purchase business that does not need royal smoke machines. That prescription is brutal but accurate. The empire fantasy has been evident from the beginning. Multiple product lines, television shows, podcasts, film production, speaking engagements, philanthropic foundations, book deals. The approach has been scattershot, attempting to establish dominance across every possible revenue stream simultaneously rather than mastering any single area first." Schiffer continued, quote, "They have to get out of the out-of-fouch celebrity elitism bubble and make something people want more than they want to mock." That last phrase deserves repetition. Make something people want more than they want to mock. Right now, Markle's brand generates more mockery than genuine consumer interest. The products become punchlines. The cooking show became fodder for parody. The lifestyle positioning became evidence of tone deafness. When your commercial output consistently inspires ridicule rather than purchase intent, your brand has a fundamental problem that no amount of marketing spend can fix. The royal smoke machines Schiffer referenced are the borrowed glamour of her connection to the British monarchy. That connection got her initial meetings. It generated curiosity. It opened doors that would have remained permanently closed to a former cable television actress with modest career achievements. But smoke machines eventually dissipate. The curiosity fades, and what remains is the product itself, which needs to stand on its own merits. The contrast in approach between Mark and the Princess of Wales became particularly stark this same week. On International Women's Day, Kate posted a message celebrating other women. Quote, "Today we celebrate the kindness, resilience, and quiet strength of women in our families and communities." She reposted highlights from various organizations, elevating the work of women across different charitable causes. The focus was external. The spotlight was directed outward. The message centered other people and their contributions. Meghan Markle posted a photograph of herself gazing lovingly over the California coastline with her daughter, Leet. The focus was internal. The spotlight was directed at herself. The message centered her own experience of motherhood and beauty. One approach says service. The other says self-promotion. The difference crystallizes everything observers have noted about the brand problem that continues to plague the Duchess. Even sympathetic commentators have struggled to defend the trajectory of Markle's commercial ventures. Jack Royston at Newsweek has traditionally written favorably about the Sussexes. He has extended them benefit of the doubt that others refuse to offer. But following the Netflix departure, even Royston acknowledged reality. He wrote that this represents, quote, another chapter of life that risks being recorded by the history books as distinctly unsuccessful. Distinctly unsuccessful from a writer who has been among her more generous interpreters. When your supporters start using language like that publicly, the narrative has shifted beyond recovery. The departure from Netflix was not spun effectively. The global expansion excuse did not land. The suggestion that one of the world's most successful streaming companies was somehow holding her back struck observers as delusional rather than strategic. Reports indicate Markle is planning a trip to Australia despite her previous unpopularity there. The last time she visited during the 2018 royal tour, reception was mixed at best. Australian media has not been particularly kind to her in the years since, so why return now? Speculation suggests she may be hunting for new investors at international events, attempting to find capital that American entertainment companies are no longer willing to provide. The pitch would need to be striking. Come invest in my lifestyle brand. Yes, Netflix walked away. Yes, Spotify called us grifters. Yes, every major partnership has imploded. But surely you can see the potential that they all missed. Every potential investor will ask the same question. What went wrong? And no answer Markle can provide will be satisfying because the pattern speaks for itself. We return to where we started with that rat poison assessment from Eric Schiffer. The phrase was not casual insult. It was market analysis from a professional whose business is understanding how Hollywood perceives commercial risk. Markle is not merely unpopular among tabloid readers. She has become a cautionary tale in executive suites. The pattern is documented. Blame partners for failures. Claim victim status when collaborations end. Move on. While insisting the problem was never internal. Future deals will not disappear entirely. Someone will always take a chance on name recognition on the royal adjacency that still generates headlines. But Schiffer predicted those deals will be, quote, peanuts, not millions. The era of massive investment, based on potential rather than performance, has ended. The Netflix exit marked the last major bet on what Meghan Markle might become rather than what she has proven herself to be. The cashmere apron could not hide what the numbers eventually revealed. All the stylish packaging and aesthetic branding in the world cannot disguise the fundamental absence of genuine audience demand. When the people paid to fix reputations are the ones publicly diagnosing yours as toxic, you have run out of smoke machines. When three major media companies in succession decide the partnership is not worth continuing, the common element becomes impossible to ignore. When even sympathetic journalists start using words like distinctly unsuccessful, the narrative has calcified. The St. Schiffer described that high-maintenance disappointment does not wash off easily. 15:28. 15 minutes, 28 seconds. It follows you into every room, every meeting, every pitch. It whispers to executives before you even open your mouth. And in an industry that runs on. 15:35. 15 minutes, 35 seconds. Relationships and reputation. That whisper can be career-ending. Drop your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for what comes.